Picture this. A city vibrant, pulsing with life. The morning sun glinting off the Roman pillars, the stone streets buzzing with chatter and echoing with the clattering of carts, vendors singing the praises of their wares. This was Pompeii, a city nestled in the bosom of the mighty Mount Vesuvius.
A thriving hub, wasn't it? Shopkeepers, scholars, artists, children, slaves. The city was alive with men and women of every ilk. You can almost hear the music, the laughter, the clatter. You can almost feel the warmth of the Roman sun, the hustle of the city markets, the whispers of Pompeian dialect reverberating around. A world within a world. Yet, little did they know of the shadow of doom looming over. What do you think was going on, Avery?
Regular life, Chris. People waking up, children going to school, businessmen haggling for the best prices, slaves performing their duties, mothers making meals, couples in love, families torn apart. The same dreams, hopes, fears we experience were alive in these very people, the pulse of everyday life. But the lives these people knew were about to change, weren't they?
Yes, Avery. One day amidst all this bustle, everyone went about their daily tasks, not knowing that the earth beneath them was simmering, that the beautiful mountain, Vesuvius, the city's protector and its doom, was about to unleash its fury. Can you imagine the city on that fateful day, Avery?
I'm not sure I want to, Chris. The thought of such a joyous city plunged abruptly into death and destruction it's heart-wrenching. But you're right. We need to dive headfirst into that reality.
The Pompeian sun would have just risen, warming the city's diverse demographic. Our snapshot, frozen in time, reveals people from every walk of life, slaves from Africa, merchants from India, the occasional stranded Gaul, and, of course, Roman citizens. They each played roles, weaving the intricate tapestry of life in Pompeii. Don't you picture the streets pulsing with a rhythm uniquely Pompeian, Avery?
Yes, those cobblestone streets, draped in the shadows of grand facades, sang a symphony of the mundane mixed with the divine. They provided the stage for some diverse characters. Imagine a slave, weary yet hopeful. A merchant busy enforcing his trade. Lot of cultures, beliefs all swarming in that city, living, loving, breathing. Every winding street echoed this medley.
How compelling, Avery. The clatter of intricately designed carts, the fervour of the marketplaces, the conversations in the public baths, it all adds substance to this picture of everyday Pompeii. The aroma of fresh fruits, the sound of the blacksmith striking hot iron, the sight of a child chasing a sputtering butterfly. There was so much human texture found in its narrow lanes and expansive forums. Don't you think so, Avery?
Absolutely, Chris. For the untrained eye, they were ordinary, mundane actions. But look a bit closer and you'll see them swimming in a sea of societal norms. Roman societal norms, to be specific. The kind that looks normal for that era, but would seem dystopian to us. For instance, the Forum, literally translating to out in the open, was central to the public life of Pompeii. One might see a legal case being argued, a political rally, or even a business deal being struck. Absolutely out in the open.
Interesting how transparency was embedded into Pompeii's core. From the public baths that broke barriers of privacy to exquisite villas adorned with expressive frescoes, this city's societal norms blended private and public life meticulously. Do we have any records about their commitments towards marriage, children, and family life?
Well, Chris, it's fascinating. Historians do have access to snippets of their societal norms through literature, artifacts, and murals. Arranged marriages were common for political or economic gains. Patriarchy was a significant element in their society, with the father or the paterfamilias having immense power, even the power of life and death over his family. Children were often educated at home by slaves and women enjoyed certain freedoms, yet were also restricted in many ways that can seem baffling to our contemporary sensibilities.
A mosaic of human experiences encased in this lost city. The Pompeii of yore we cannot help but imagine, alive in its complexities, a world not far removed from our own. Pompeii, Avery, could be viewed as a microcosm of Roman society. Even in the everyday, it showcased a complexity that begs for exploration. So, the culture of public baths, I've always struggled to wrap my head around that. it being so different from our own conventions of privacy.
Well, Chris, the public baths were far more than just a place to, literally, clean up. They served as social hubs, people gathering there for leisure, conversation, political discourse, and even business negotiations. Imagine the gray steam clouding the grand bathing halls, the echoes of conversations bouncing off the high architectured ceiling. Insulated from the outside chaos, the Roman bath was a sanctum of sensory respite.
Sort of like Roman social media, then. A gathering place for ideas, interaction, gossip, a hub for engaging experiences, except more tangible, more human.
Not too far away, Chris. The baths bridged societal gaps, both the rich and the aesthetically pleasing slaves bathed together. But let's shift focus a bit to another distinctly Pompeian aspect, the role of women. It always struck me as paradoxical. There were certain boundaries, yet there also existed female entrepreneurs, priestesses, and even poets. Quite contrary to the popular belief of women being confined to their homes, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, it feels like a unique dance between oppression and liberty, an intriguing influence of cultural norms and societal structures on the opportunities and restrictions experienced by women. Summing up, public baths as peculiar Pompeian social networks and the unique position of women, challenging our preconceived notions, revealing the human behind raw history. And so our stroll through the streets of Pompeii takes us towards the most vibrant corners of the city. Imagine, Avery, the deafening noise of the bustling marketplace, a symphony of heated barter, the infectious laughter of street vendors, the sizzle of street food. The marketplace was not just a place for commerce, but a bustling, living, breathing entity.
Artisans haggling for the best price, fresh produce displayed in vibrant heaps, intricate trinkets catching the sunlight. Stories were shared, friendships formed, and society was, in a way, orchestrated within the chaos of these marketplaces.
Can't the architecture of modern startups emulate something similar? Exclusive ideas, collided and energized, in a common marketplace of innovation. But Pompeii wasn't limited to marketplace encounters. The city was alive with artistic passions in the grand amphitheaters.
The air would come alive with the roar of the crowd, wouldn't it, Chris? Vivid depictions of complex human dramas enacted on stage. From brutal gladiator fights to gripping theatrical performances, it was a hub of cultural effervescence, expression, and entertainment.
But the mosaic doesn't end there, does it? Working under the veil of discretion, in the dimmed tavern light, lay the brothels, a testament to the city's raw and palpable humanity.
Indeed, an unexpected cultural cornerstone. Whispered secrets, unnamed desires. The city pulses midway between virtue and vice, much like our own cities today.
Picture a day like any other, Avery. Pompeii's streets teeming with activity, the amphitheaters echoing with the roar of the crowds, and the steady hum of market chatter filling the air. It was an ordinary day until it wasn't.
With no warning then, I imagine.
Exactly. A rumble first. Then the ground shakes, and then the once clear sky is obscured by a monstrous cloud of ash and pumice. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius. It was sudden, violent, the kind of terror you can't prepare for.
How long did it last?
The initial eruption probably lasted several hours, but the catastrophic fallout, the torrent of ash and pumice, that's what buried the city in less than a day. In a sudden apocalyptic event, Pompeii was wiped off the map, frozen in a moment now forever etched in history.
And the people, Chris, surely they must have tried to escape.
Some did, but the evidence suggests that many were caught off guard by the sudden catastrophe. They were found in their homes, on the streets, even in the amphitheaters, frozen in time.
Frozen in time. That phrase is haunting. True terror solidified. There's something inherently tragic in the human tendency to believe in the permanence of our worlds until disaster strikes. Pompeii serves as a timeless reminder that sometimes life changes in an instant, in ways we cannot fathom.
Absolutely, Avery. The catastrophic implications of Vesuvius's eruption offer a solemn glimpse into the fragility of life, an urgent testament to natural disaster's destructive force and perhaps even nature's indifferent cruelty. Pompeii, thriving one day and lost the next, indeed encapsulates the brutality of life's unexpected turns. Imagine, Avery, the life they left behind. Each object, each building tells a story. Signs of life, frozen in ash.
It's a haunting picture you're painting, Chris. Amidst the destruction, daily life was put on hold, never to resume.
Absolutely. Be it a loaf of bread still in the oven, or a jug of wine on the table, or the hastily scribbled notes on a wall. They were all just common everyday objects until the eruption immortalized them. They're now silent witness to a civilization's abrupt end.
And how about the structures? There must be an eerie beauty to these ruins.
When it comes to the structures, the preservation is truly fascinating. The volcanic ash essentially froze Pompeii in time, protecting structures, frescoes, even mosaics from the elements.
So all these details, however mundane, are bits and pieces of history.
That's quite an apt observation. These debris are poignant artifacts of a world that was. The human cost of Mount Vesuvius's eruption is evident in those thousands of empty homes, desolate streets, and abandoned belongings. As we speak of these objects and structures, we give voice to those silenced by history. We summon the presence of its past inhabitants. So, you see, Avery, when Mount Vesuvius erupted, it was not only a geological phenomenon, but a moment that would forever alter the course of history.
It's difficult to imagine. The city bustling with life and now desolate, frozen in time.
Exactly. One instant, Pompeii was full of laughter, negotiation, romance, a city pulsating with life. And then, silence. Everything came to a standstill, covered in thick layers of volcanic ash.
The irony is chilling. A city brought to its knees by the very earth it stood on.
Indeed. In an ironic twist of fate, the volcanic ash that destroyed the city also preserved it. Pompeii transformed from a lively city to a macabre relic, from a city of the living to a city of the dead.
It's both heartbreaking and eerie. I can't help but wonder about the thousands of lives that were erased in an instant. The dreams, the happiness, the stories left unfinished.
And yet, in the midst of all this destruction, there was a certain immortality. Pompeii lived on, although in a different way. It became an enduring monument to a moment in time, a story sealed in ash.
To say that it influenced the course of history is an understatement, no. Had Vesuvius not erupted, we would have lost a significant part of Roman history.
Without doubt, Avery. Future civilizations understood the Romans better because of Pompeii. What it gave up in life, it returned in knowledge, a sterling testament to the cycle of existence. Fast forward then, Avery, to 1748.
Centuries after the catastrophic event?
Precisely. Picture this, the Campania region of Italy. Fields of olive and orange groves, vineyards, farmhouses dotting the fertile plains, and a pair of farmers ploughing their land. Then, their plough hits something hard, not a rock, not a tree root, something else. They started to dig up, and what they found was a hauntingly familiar frescoed wall. It was the first step towards the resurrection of a city lost in time.
Lost and then found, by those who had no idea of its existence. It must have been terrifying yet exciting. But Chris, what stirred worldwide at the rediscovery of this ancient city?
The world held its breath as the curtain of dust, ash, and time was lifted, revealing the streets, homes, even bodies of Pompeii. The forgotten heartbeat of an ancient civilization started echoing again, sending shockwaves of fascination, disbelief, and admiration. The past was handed back to humanity, a quiet reminder of its own mortality and the resilience of nature.
In touching the walls of Pompeii, we touched history, didn't we?
Indeed. The stones absorbed stories of joy, love, despair, and daily life. Pompeii emerged not as a bygone historical relic, but a thriving society whose pulse now beats in the heart of every artifact, every street, every wall, ushering in a wave of nostalgia, comprehension, and respect.
It must have been like peering into a mirror hanging in time, to see life so intimately, the same joys, the same sorrows. Pompeii, in a way, normalized history for us.
True. It invited us not to just study the past, but to feel it. A deeply moving encounter with the eternal, with what once was, is, and would continue being.
Here's to Pompeii, then, to history, humanity, and the cycle of life and survival.
Excavating Pompeii wasn't just a simple task, was it?
Certainly far from it, Chris. Think about it. For those archaeologists, they were digging out not just a city, but disparate narrative threads of a society frozen in time. Each peeled layer beckoning them further into the petrified whispers of Pompeii.
I can't even begin to imagine the excruciating work required, the patience, the caution. For in their hands, they held the fragile remains of a civilization. They delicately held breaths of the past. A misstep would mean severing ties, muting the voice that reached to them from a millennia ago.
Yet beneath the carefully excavated walls, floors, and artifacts lay Pompeii's silenced residents. Residents waiting, almost yearning to breathe life back into their stories. Embedded in mortar, ash, and petrified structures, they clamored to be heard, to have their tales told and retold to a world that had long forgotten them.
And it wasn't just the structures whispering narratives, was it? Even the smallest of artifacts bore messages. A pan, a toy, a piece of jewelry. They all painted a picture of who used them, how they lived, and how they saw the world around them.
Exactly. Each object held a story, waiting to be unraveled, and each unearthing brought them one step closer to reconstructing the mosaic of daily life in Pompeii. And that indeed is the power of archaeology. It lets the silent speak. It forms a bridge between the present and the past and allows conversations across millennia.
It is overwhelming to think about the magnitude of the task, yet exhilarating to consider the tantalizing secrets that were disclosed. For isn't that a gift? To add a voice to the voiceless, to narrate the tales of beings long lost. We owe a tremendous debt to archaeology, don't we?
We certainly do, Chris. It's through these carefully excavated narratives that we attempt to grasp the richness of those past lives, who, like us, loved, aspired, lost, and dreamed. The archaeologists negotiating the passage of time, breath by breath, dust particle by dust particle, enabled us to hear, to feel, to walk alongside the dwellers of Pompeii, resurrecting them in echoes and shadows.
They say Pompeii has remained silent. Yet, wouldn't you agree, Avery, that it's a city that communicates through structures, stories, and remnants of lives once lived?
It's as if the city is a relic intricately designed by time itself, Chris, an embodiment of a moment frozen in time, a page out of history trapped within walls. Pompeii does indeed talk, just not in a language that we're used to. But archaeologists have slowly started to decipher these silent, stone-written missives. Our past speaks in whispers, and if one pays attention, their echoes can be heard in this time capsule that is Pompeii.
One needs to only stroll through its lanes, its houses, its marketplaces, and listen.
Yes, just listen. The lively forums echoing with haggles over olives and wine, the lapping water from the public baths, the cheer from the amphitheaters. Rome lived and breathed here in Pompeii, a heartbeat encased in stone.
These stories that Pompeii unfolds, aren't they a testament to our own existence, our fleetingness, our shared humanity that transcends time and space?
I believe they are, Chris. Pompeii tells the tale of lives lived in a moment of history. Lives that loved, hoped, and dreamed, just like ours. Lives that were so abruptly extinguished, yes, but also lives that in their silence resonates most profoundly. Through Pompeii, they reach out to us, touching us with their lived realities, their hopes and joys, their despairs and losses.
In the bricks and mortar, in every artifact resting in the Pompeii ash, there are multitudes of narratives. Uncovering them thrusts us into an intimate rendezvous with our past.
And yet, despite the magnitude of the tragedy, there's an overpowering sense of vibrancy that persists, a testament not just to their ending, but to the life they led before the ash settled.
To walk the streets of Pompeii is to truly behold the grandeur of Roman architectural prowess. Marvel at the villas of the wealthy patricians, which even in ruins continue to convey the message of their might and majesty.
Yes, while they were grand, these villas also tell us about the lifestyle of the Pompeii nobles, don't they? About the kind of life they led, the privileges they enjoyed. Undoubtedly a stark contrast to the ordinary populace.
Indeed, Avery. The domus, or houses in Pompeii, were demonstrations of power, taste, and wealth. From the entrance gate to the interior courtyards, every element had a purpose, carved with intricate frescoes and elegant porticos. They were designed for comfort, but also for show.
And yet, there was an appealing simplicity in the houses of the common people, wouldn't you say? A series of rooms surrounding a central courtyard, a trivial fountain playing melodies with water in the midst of it all. It's like a snapshot of domestic life frozen in time.
Undeniably, Avery. These homes were simpler, but they were still beautifully designed. After all, beauty was a desirable human trait in Roman society, extended even to the living spaces of common citizens.
Leaving aside the private dwellings, didn't public structures also greatly embody the Roman architectural style?
Absolutely, Avery. The public buildings, the basilicas, temples, forums, and thermal baths were all monumental in nature, each exhibit of a unique architectural marvel. Especially the thermal baths, those were akin to our modern-day social clubs, where discussion spurred and leisure was basked in the warmth of water.
And what about the art embedded into Pompeii's architecture? The magnificent frescoes and mosaics adorning the buildings, they were a testament to the Roman love for beauty, were they not?
You can't talk about Pompeii without picturing the vibrantly coloured frescoes or the intricate mosaics. They were an essential component of Roman aesthetic expression. Each image tells a story, a myth, a day in the life of a Pompeii inhabitant, a silent tale immortalized in stone, waiting to be heard, felt. Language, clothes, and food, they lend character to a civilization's portrait. Yet isn't it intriguing how everyday items, those we scarcely pay heed to in the rush of life, hold rich narratives?
Right, Chris. The traces of daily life seep into their ordinary. The pitcher they fetched water in, the ovens they baked bread on, or the workshops where artisans honed their trade.
Pompeii, encased in volcanic remnants, provides a repository of such quotidian relics. Think about it, Avery. From ladles to looms, keys to combs, artifacts uncovered from Pompeii lend us a window into the everydayness of an ancient Roman world.
Imagine a Roman kitchen, Chris, cluttered with bronze pans, iron grills, clay pots, and wooden spatulas. A space where the matriarch of the house would whip up aromatic delicacies, perhaps a garum fish sauce or spelt porridge.
Exactly, Avery. Stepping outside this kitchen, we might find a cobbler, lost in his craft, fashioning leather into sandals, or perhaps a carpenter, chiseling wood into tables and chairs. Everyday items, yet each telling a tale of its own.
Speaking of tales, Chris, weren't garlands and wreaths quite prominent in Roman aesthetics? Remember how they were fashioned into wreaths for doors and winners of sporting events?
Yes, Avery. Quite so. And that takes us back to the public spaces in Pompeii. The amphitheatres with their gladiatorial games, horse races, and theatrical events, each a symphony of grunts and cheers, an ode to the Roman thirst for entertainment.
So if we rummaged through the ruins, we would find brass trumpets, lyres, masks, ceramic figurines of actors, artifacts silently echoing with the lingering traces of once vibrant public performances.
And those are just samplings from a treasure trove of ordinary, lost, then rediscovered. Translating the humdrum into the historic, these artifacts allow us to piece together the jigsaw of Pompeii's past, lending a tangible aspect to the city's ancient cultural legacy. We relish the city's artifacts, its aberrant amphitheatres, its bustling brothels. But Pompeii is also wrapped in robes of a lively culture.
Embroidered in threads of music, theatre, food, fashion, and religion.
Indeed, Avery. Envisage marionette shows hosted in the streets, actors donned in elaborate masks performing farces at the amphitheatre, or wandering musicians with flutes or lyres, their notes painting the air with melodious wisp.
What do these notes whisper to us now, Chris?
Perhaps they sing tales of Pompeii's vibrancy, its zest for life and entertainment. Yet they may also echo memories of laughter, of mirth, drowned in a deluge of molten fury.
That's just it, isn't it? That zest for life, we find evidence of it in almost all aspects of their lives. Have you ever wondered, Chris, how the Pompeians reveled in their repasts?
Dishes adorned with flavors of the Mediterranean, perhaps. Succulent mussels, luscious grapes, fresh cheeses, and cereals, right?
All stirred skillfully into a magnificent concoction. Food was an integral strand of their cultural fabric.
And the fashion? Avery, did we find garments and jewelries that whisper the sartorial sensibilities of the silent city?
Certainly, Chris. Many of these items are decaying, but archaeological evidence suggests that the upper strata of society sported flowing togas, while the common folk wore tunics.
A simple flair to the fabric, yet nothing short of elegant. What about the spiritual sphere, Avery?
Religion held a significant place in the Roman society, Chris. Gods and goddesses, sacred relics, altars and temples, Pompeii was rich in piety and ritualism.
A city under the shadow of mighty Vesuvius, surrendered to deity's whims, unaware of the impending doom. Avery, when we peer into our rearview mirror of time, the fiery tragedy of Pompeii seems a distant speck. But as we navigate the cobbles of the present, how do we see this city of silent stories?
Well, Chris, the once vibrant city now stands preserved in silence, its ancient tales whispered through the winds that meander across its empty streets. Its preservation is, however, a complex task, marked by the rendezvous of the past with the present.
Preservation, yes, and the balance to strike therein, isn't it? Conserving what's left, yet respecting the rhythm of the ever-evolving now. How can we bind the fragments of the past with the pulse of the present?
It's a delicate dance, Chris, not just preservation, but replication, understanding, and learning. The conservation teams, archaeologists, and historians, they strive to give voice to the mute city, use cutting-edge technology to help restore and understand the context and history of the town, while ensuring the city's story isn't lost in the sands of time.
Would you say the city's tale resides in the amphitheater's echoes, the marketplace's spirit, or the lingering scent of aged wine in the air? Are there lessons unto us in the panorama between what once was and what now is?
Every whisper of what was is a lesson, Chris. Pompeii's ruins, its pumice-crushed streets, are testament to the fragility of our existence, but also to the enduring human spirit. We learn, we remember, we grow, and therein lies the melody binding the twines of time.
Indeed, Avery, every whisper of the past reminds us of our own existence, transience. There's a haunting beauty in it, woven into the fabric of time, the shadows of history that stretch out to touch us in our here and now.
Do you recall, Chris, the graffiti left by an unknown Pompeian? Savor your life, fortune's cookie crumbles easily. Indeed, as we navigate the present, dipping our toes occasionally into yesteryear's waters, Pompeii offers an unsettlingly tangible reminder.
A pertinent reminder, Avery. One that underscores the brevity of existence. It's an arcane lullaby, offering a peek into the past. Imagining the ornate villas, the vibrant haggling in markets, the flamboyant amphitheater. Tragically silenced, yet speaking volumes through the veil of time.
Just picture it, Chris. We traverse the same catacombs of time, much like those Pompeians did. In essence, we're not so different. We too are dreamers meandering through the maze of existence. Yet, in those dreams, we ought to seek our preservation, our collective memory, and our understanding of history.
Striking, isn't it, Avery? How Pompeii, a tale of sudden extermination, forces us to re-examine our own existence. It poses a question that resonates through the millennia. How will we be remembered? How would future archaeologists unravel our stories, our technology, our culture?
What an eerie yet fascinating ponderance. The echoes of Pompeii ricochet through time, leading us to today's crossroads, to remember our past, to acknowledge our present, and to envision our future. We must not only dig and discover, but also comprehend and preserve.
The impressions of ancient imprints and the remnants of the mundane lead us innovators to explore the endless potential of technology. Wouldn't it be a monumental achievement, Avery, if future excavations of our time portrayed a society advanced in not only technology, but also possessing a deep respect for nature. That indeed would be a compelling narrative to leave behind.
It would, Chris. Today, as we bid adieu to Pompeii for now, let's remember, every stone, every relic, and the silence of the city all tell a story. And the protagonist of that story is time and humanity. And time, like us, continually strides forward, cresting and falling, leaving behind traces of stardust as it goes.